Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Darlington College podcast. Today I have a brand new guest. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, my name's Adele Marshall and I'm currently studying the NCTJ Level 5 diploma at Darlington College.
So what is that? What does that involve?
It's a national Level 5 diploma in journalism. It's one academic year long and we study several different modules in the hope that at the end of it we pass with a gold standard pass and move into our journalistic life.
Brilliant. Okay, that is fantastic. So obviously we've had a bit of a chat before we started recording, and you obviously have come to this following a different career path. I'd love to go and tell me a bit about what's happened previously and a bit of journey with yourself to get to this point. So what's happened in the past? What did you do when you first left school or college?
Yeah, so I left school at 16. I'd had high hopes to go on and be a ballerina and went off to London for some auditions. I did gain access to one school in London, but after a lot of consideration with my parents, we decided it wasn't going to be the best path for me. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go on to sixth form college because I was unfortunately bullied at school for a few silly different reasons. So I just made a slightly snap decision to join the army at 16. I went to the careers office in Middlesbrough and spoke to one of the three chaps who were sat there. The army man was the most friendly, looked through some brochures and basically signed myself up there, and then joined the army shortly before my 17th birthday. Wow. Joined the Royal Signals, which is communications. Served 13 and a half years in the army before leaving to get married and have my babies. I ran my own business for several years. And now that my children are old enough and they're at secondary school, it was time to sort of start something completely different. Yep. Journalism I've always been interested in anyway, and it was like the natural next step for me to get some more formal qualifications in something that I was really interested in.
So you went from ballet to the military. Mm-hmm. What a leap that is! That is fantastic. What did you do in the military during your time?
Well, I was in the Royal Corps of Signals, which is communication systems. The Royal Signals communicate by land, sea, and air.
Okay.
We provide the communications for battle groups on the ground as well as the higher up echelons. And those communication systems were based in the back of like armoured fighting vehicles. So we'd be in control of establishing and maintaining communication systems so that basically, for example, during wartime, everyone can speak to each other from the ground right up to the higher levels. But within army life, you look after the vehicles, you do lots of fitness, you do lots of travelling, lots of adventure training. And during adventure training, I started skydiving. And
as you do?
As you do, yeah. Yeah, and that eventually took me on to joining the Red Devils parachute team whilst I was in the army. And I served for 3 years on the Red Devils and even longer as an instructor for the army. And that was probably the last 5 years of the army I spent jumping out of planes, yeah.
Yeah, you say it so casually.
Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago now, though. But yeah, and I carried on jumping once I left the army. So I was actually still skydiving when I was pregnant with my son.
Right.
So he did about 50 jumps in utero, and then stopped, and then carried on skydiving again until I fell pregnant with Charlotte, and she's 11 now. So I haven't jumped for that long now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, what a story that is. So how did the Red Devils come about? How did you suddenly go, I know what I want to do. I want to jump out of a plane.
Well, actually, when I was at school, my friend at the time, her mum did a charity skydive. She did a static line parachute jump up at Peterlee, and she broke her leg. And I remember thinking, she broke her femur, and she had a really bad break. And I just remember thinking that was amazing and interesting, and I quite fancy a bit of that when I'm old enough. And then as soon as I got the opportunity in the army to go on some skydiving courses, I just put my name down for it and did my first jump in Germany at Bad Lipspringer. And you start with static line. I don't know if you know what static line parachuting is, but it's where you first jump. You are in effect attached to the inside of the aircraft on a long static line. Yep. So as you exit the aircraft, that pulls out your parachute as you leave the aeroplane, and then you progress on to free fall. So you start with a 3-second delay, then a 5-second delay, and the delay being the moments in free fall before you, the seconds in free fall before you pull your parachute. And then you develop on to jumping from 12,500 feet and having almost a minute's free fall before you pull your parachute. And it was just something I was always interested in as a child, and then literally jumped at the chance when I got the opportunity when I was a soldier. So it just became my sport. It just became the normal thing for me to do on a weekend. And then I got posted from Germany back to the UK, did some jumps in the UK, got posted to Northern Ireland, I did some jumps out there, came back to the UK. And my friend's boyfriend told me that the Red Devils were looking for a woman.
Right.
And I got put in touch with people that way because I was already in the skydiving world by that point because it was my sport and I was doing it every weekend. But he was a Red Devil at the time. And he said, we call them the Freds. The Freds are looking for a girl. And I ended up getting put in touch with the team.
Yeah.
I was invited along for a trial, so I stayed with them for about 4 weeks. And at the end of the 4 weeks trial, they took a vote whether they should keep me or not. And I never went back to my normal army job after that.
That's
Just
incredible.
stayed. Yeah, it was.
I can't imagine the interview process for leaping out of aeroplanes.
Well, I remember pulling up for the initial interview, and the army had given me a car to drive to Netheravon in Salisbury, where the interview was, and I was sweating and I was so nervous. I knew it was all men in there, all parachute regiment soldiers. I knew a couple of people because I was skydiving already, but I was so nervous. And I pulled up outside and the sergeant major came out and he said, "Oh, you parked in the wrong place." And he waved his arms at me and then he was like, "I'm only joking, come on, in you come." And he went on to become a really good friend of ours and, but yeah, it was quite terrifying, more terrifying, than the actual jumping, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And over that 4 weeks, we did practice jumps together. They wanted to see how I got on with the rest of the team, what my natural ability was, and basically, most importantly, whether I was just going to fit in. And then they got to take a vote. And I still don't know to this day how many of them raised their hand and how many didn't, but I made the grade. So I just stayed there, yeah. And it was just the best time. And I was the only girl on the team of 30 men, and they're all parachute regiment soldiers.
Wow.
And me, yeah.
What an experience. So where did that take you? Did it take you to all over the world or?
Yeah, so I went to, we did team training in America, Florida, California, Arizona. I represented the Army at the World Cup in Arizona. Went out to Cyprus, did team training in Cyprus.
Yeah,
really, all over the
did
UK.
you do like events and like
Yeah,
shows?
so we'd jump into, we'd do displays, so jump into events, everything from a village fete or a school fete right up to air shows in America, Oceania Air Show and things like that. People's weddings, corporate events. And then on the 5th of May 2003, I did a display into Queen's Ave in Aldershot on the Army Day. And I brought my femur myself, so I jumped into the arena. I made a mistake, I snapped my femur.
Ouch.
And got carted off. Sorry.
That's all right.
Got carted off, and I was out of action for probably only about 5 or 6 months before I started jumping again and carried on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's incredible. So jumping in front of stadiums of people and things like that as well.
Yeah.
Wow, what was that like? I bet that was incredible.
Yeah, so of all the skydiving or parachuting that you do, jumping into an arena of any kind is the most dangerous because you have a much smaller area than you would normally jump into. So if you were jumping at an airfield, it's massive, has to be. But when you have an arena which is like 100 by 50 metres, that's the minimum size. It's always surrounded by people or other hazards. It might be, we could have a road or water or whatever.
Yeah.
And always lots of people. There can be buildings, there can be vehicles and stuff. So you have to land in the arena.
You can't get that one wrong.
Yeah, I never landed. So I always landed in the arena.
Yeah.
But on that occasion, I made a mistake because I was so nervous, and it cost me a fractured femur. Yeah.
High price to pay, hey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the worst injury you've had during your time with the Red Devils?
It was the only injury, yeah.
Only injury?
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
there we
yeah.
go then.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. How many jumps do you think you've done in your time?
Over 2,000 jumps.
Wow.
Yeah, which sounds like a lot because it is, but there's plenty of people with much more experience than me as well. Yes.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so you left the army when?
Left the army in, what year did I get married? 2009.
Yep.
Yeah, and had my son that year.
Okay.
So I left so I'd gone back to the Green Army then, as we call it, and I knew that I didn't want to be a serving mum.
Yep.
I didn't want to be away on ops or away on exercise all the time with having children, so I made the decision to leave at that point. And then started running my own wedding cake design business. So I made
Wow.
wedding cakes for years, from 2015 until literally about 18 months ago. And it was great because it was working around the children, and I was my own boss, and it just basically fitting around family life.
So were you always a baker on the side when you were in the military, or?
No,
No?
didn't have a kitchen when I was single and living in, no. I just always, from being a kid, I enjoyed baking. And then when the kids came along, I started making cakes for their christenings and things, and my friends would say, oh, that's good. Can you do one for me?
Okay.
So I ended up doing favours for people. And then when we moved here, as in near Richmond in North Yorkshire, we converted the garage into my own kitchen and sort of launched my little business and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, but then I got sick of washing up, and the kids got old enough for me to kind of, get a life again for me.
Yeah.
So I was working in a school for a while before I started at Darlington College, and now my focus is now getting this diploma in journalism. Yeah.
So what made you pick journal? You've experimented with so many amazing things.
Yeah.
Why journalism? What made you want to go for journalism in particular?
Journalism is it's like the passage of information and storytelling, and I love information. I love finding out facts about things and reading about things that have happened and the way those stories are told. I also love photography and videography, because going back to being on the Red Devils, I was a free-fall videographer as well. So I used to put people's stories together through video and pass that to them, and they used to, that was something for them to keep hold of forever, and it was their story in video form. And I just used to love doing that, and I loved the editing and loved what joy it brought them when they got their tandem video, whatever it was. Yeah. So it's just like telling stories. And as a kid, I used to love creative writing, and I think it just brings a lot of those things together, but in maybe a bit more of a grown-up fashion. I don't know.
No,
I just find it really interesting.
So how did the videography in the Red Devils come about first? Did you just offer to do it, or? Kind
of, yeah. So to be a tandem instructor, I'm too small. So I'm 5'3" and like 8.5 stone, and all the blokes were nearly probably more like 6 foot and big strapping lads. And the tandem equipment that you wear is really big. And they did put it on me in the hope that I'd become a tandem instructor, but it was just physically too big for me to wear. You then have to have another person strapped onto the front of you, which 99% of the time the person was going to be a lot bigger than me.
Yeah.
So they said, why don't you put a camera on your head? So I said, okay. So a big helmet with a flat top and a video camera on the top and a stills camera on the front. And then you'd have like a bite switch in your mouth, and you'd bite the switch to take the stills pictures.
I didn't realise that's how
you'd have to remember to just physically put the video camera on before you jumped out the aircraft. And you sometimes did forget when you got into trouble. So you'd have to bite it and take the pictures. You have to get the person in frame.
Yeah.
So they'd have an eyesight. You need to have it lined up before you jump, so you knew that looking through this ring, you would have the people in frame. I just loved it. I just loved taking pictures, and
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So,
I didn't realise that's how you operated the cameras, but it makes so much sense at the same time.
There's other methods as well. There's a bite switch, a blow switch, and you can have one where you do it with you, but you'd have to have like a full wire down your thing. So bite is just really easy. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose, would you say that journalism, there sounds like there's some similarities to your role in the Signals? You talk about information. Yeah, so
it is intertwined a bit. So again, it's about communicating. And I think communicating is I think it's quite a lost art, because I hate it when I email an establishment or a company or something, they don't respond well. I just think it's really important to communicate well, and that kind of comes with having the correct information and knowing how to pass it on.
Yep.
And that is storytelling, and that is news, and that's everything, isn't it? It's about the correct information for people to see, to read, to understand.
I suppose what would be good to know is, in your military time, what did you see was effective communication, and what were the issues when you saw it was ineffective? What were the barriers? What were the things that were coming?
So I suppose in the role that I was in, to provide good communications, you had to have sound knowledge of frequencies, antenna length and wavelength and things like that, including the power that provides all of those things, the vehicle that you're providing it from, and the other people, the users' knowledge of how to effectively work these different types of radios that you had. And if any one of those things in the chain broke, then the communications would fall. So you'd have to, it's about bringing all the different things together. So I think the the reason why communication was so good within that role was because everyone was so well trained. And if people are well trained, knowledge is power, isn't it? So the more you know and more you understand, the better communications you can offer. And I think that runs through everything. It's about training and knowledge and, passage of information to other people properly, effectively.
Yeah, 100%.
Really, yeah.
What sort of things have you seen, areas where you might have the knowledge and the understanding, but still that doesn't work? Have you ever come across that situation? Like, has there been breakdown in communication or misunderstanding? Something I've seen when I've been preparing some literature, say, to put, and it's how one person reads it and another person reads it can be very different. You come across anything like that?
Well, I've been working in a school, and I think quite often within a school, because the teachers are so busy, that their knowledge of or appreciation for the importance of communications means that messages don't get passed properly and important things can get dropped, not on purpose and not because people don't care, but because they don't maybe have the capacity to do things to the way that I would like things to be done. When people don't reply to emails, people don't ask, people don't do things that they've been asked, and it's because I think the biggest failure might be literally because people don't have time to do things properly in a lot of the really huge organisations, and that can make things not work properly. With regards to the little business that I ran, I was making wedding cakes and I was my own boss, so I could call the shots and everything, and I did most of the communicating. But even with brides, sometimes you could find that even they sometimes didn't reply to they couldn't get their point across to me very well. So I think a face-to-face meeting works so much better than doing things digitally or on the phone or whatever, because you can get more out of people when you're talking to them face-to-face, which is what I love about journalism as well. It's the opportunity to speak to people properly, to get information down and stuff. So yeah, I think training helps, doesn't it? And knowledge and appreciation for what the jobs that other people are doing. And it's never just one thing, is it?
No.
It's when everything comes together that makes things work. Like team, isn't it? A team, but not necessarily just people within a team, but the way things are done within an organisation or a team either make it or break it, I guess.
And I'd say building the signals was a good place to start.
Yeah. And I suppose your expectations at that point are really high. So when you come out of that environment and you kind of hope and expect that everything's like that and you discover that it's not, that can be quite frustrating.
I can imagine so.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask you there was, obviously you're doing the wedding cake business, and you decided journalism's what I want to go down. Obviously, you had the idea that journalism is the thing. Mm-hmm. How did you end up at the college?
How did I end up at Darlington College? Well, a lot of Googling to find out where I could do the NCTJ course, and just happened to be on my doorstep. So I had looked at other online courses that weren't necessarily affiliated to the NCTJ, but after lots of, plenty of research and reading up, I realised that was the way ahead. I did look at not just doing a journalism degree, but then realising that it wasn't affiliated to the NCTJ, so you could get a degree in journalism, but then most of the places that you would like to go and work for require the NCTJ qualification.
Okay, yeah.
So I just went straight in for the
college.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah.
And when did you start the college?
September last year. Yeah.
So time recording January, just so everyone's aware where we are. So obviously you enrolled. Take me through the process. Did you go and do an open evening, or how did you go about it?
Yeah, so I filled in a form online and spoke to Sue at the college, who's the tutor there. Went for a chat, did a little entrance test and another chat with Sue, and then I was offered a place. There's only two of us actually physically at the college studying. The other lady's an apprentice, and then there's myself. And then the lessons are delivered to us in person in the classroom, but there can be perhaps 20 other people in that lesson online as well. Mm-hmm. And they're scattered all over the country. And they're all apprentices apart from me now. Right. So they're all in the job doing reporter roles, and I've got no experience as a reporter. So I've got all that to learn as well. Whereas I feel like everyone else is a little bit ahead of me because they're all half my age and I've got twice the experience, but I'm just trying to, I'll get there in the end with that side of it, with the experience side of it.
That's okay. It's the, you're obviously making the move into it, and that's what it's all about. I know you've been doing some work placement activities. We'll come on to that. But yeah, so people are dialing in from all over the UK essentially for these courses.
Yeah, it's people London, Bristol, Cumbria, everywhere. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realise that.
Well, I didn't realise that either till we started.
Did
And all
you
these
not?
people popped up. I was like, where are they? Why aren't they in the classroom? I thought there'd be more people in the classroom.
Yeah.
But of course, they're all in placements. They're all in reported jobs.
Yeah, doing it.
Except me. So I feel like I'm on the back foot slightly.
Well, you could be on the front foot because you're there.
Maybe.
So that's great. I think, obviously you enrolled in the course, you came in. What was your first impression of the college, the staff, the facilities? What did you make of it all?
The tutors are fantastic, all of them. They're all so professional and helpful and patient. And we've done our first set of exams in December. So we did court reporting, public affairs and video journalism. And we started the course in September to then learn that the first exams were in December on subjects I'd never touched before. So it was like, what? But, they guided us through the whole process and revision sessions and, excellent lessons and slideshows and stuff. And I have passed those first set of exams with gold standard.
There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we're moving on to building our portfolios now, along with shorthand, which is very, very difficult. It's like learning another language completely. Essential journalism, shorthand, media law, and newspaper regulation. They're the 4 more exams that I have left to do.
You seem like you got it in hand now.
Yeah, I think time's ticking on, isn't it? It's nearly February, and I think the last of the exams are in May, June time, so I need to get a crack on with the revision for those as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. What was it like doing the court reporting, for example? Like, obviously, it sounds like you've had a good mix of experiences in terms of that. How did the court reporting work in terms of studies?
Yeah, so court reporting, I'd say, was the most difficult aspect of the course so far, because I think that journalism is a very creative subject, but court reporting is not creative. It's the law, and you just have to learn it black and white, just as it is. It is what it is, and you just have to learn in the acts and the clauses and It was very, very hard, and it's like parrot fashion. So in the exam, there was no room for interpretation. It was all, it's either right or it's wrong, and that was quite hard. I found that quite difficult. So I had all my flashcards out for revision, and it was just basically just trying to like memorise things rather than fully learn the ins and outs of it. It was just learning black and white things rather than, having any input into what do you think about that, or what could this be the answer? Yeah, it was just learn it, which was hard.
On the creative side, though, give us some examples of things that you've been doing there. So where you've been able to stretch those creative muscles, what sort of things?
Yeah, so for my video journalism coursework, I got in touch with Swaledale Mountain Rescue Team who were based in Catterick. Yep. So I've followed them for years. I love what they do, and I'm in admiration for they're all superhuman as far as I'm concerned. And they were really accommodating. I went down for 2 days and spent an evening with them and a full day with them on a Sunday for some training, and made my video journalism coursework based around their recruitment drive that they were holding.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're just an amazing bunch of people with so many skills, and obviously it's all voluntary. Seeing what they do, the training they go through, and what it takes to become a team member was just brilliant. And they've got their search dogs as well. Wow. The search dogs are just fantastic.
So what sort of things did they have you doing on that event?
I did volunteer to be a casualty, which was fun. And I followed them on one of the stands. They were rescuing someone who had broken a femur actually, and they had to abseil down some rocks, and I didn't abseil down them. I took the long walk down to the bottom and watched them rescue this person and administer first aid, because they were still in training themselves, the people who were there. And then there was another stand where they were giving CPR to a patient, and then there was lost people, and then they showed me a demonstration with the dogs. So they had me hide in the woods and sent the dogs to find me, and I just love the animals; they're brilliant. Loads of stuff that day, and then their actual emergency HQ, so the response vehicle where they have all of the maps up inside and they're communicating with the people on the ground. So the communication side of it comes back into that as well. So the communications between the person sat in the back of the vehicle and the people who are out there searching for someone is obviously so important. There's no room for error. So they run a tight ship, and they're absolutely amazing at what they do. And I love that side of it as well.
So that sounds amazing. Great experience. How do you then capture that in a piece to promote their recruitment drive. How did you find that
And
process?
it was quite tricky. When I got home, I realised I had approximately 100 clips of video to edit down into about 2 minutes, which was quite tricky. The angle that I took was that they are recruiting, but the recruitment's open to everyone. You actually don't have to be a superhero to apply for the rescue team. They're looking for people who've got skills to offer rather than them already being fully trained up in certain areas. They're interested in male and female, old and young, experienced and inexperienced. But the most important thing that they want from someone is dedication and time. So if you get called out, can you just walk out of work to go and help the team, or can you not? And that is the most important thing. So I interviewed a lady called Charlotte, who's actually a ballet teacher. She has her own ballet school in Richmond, and she's the youngest youngest person on the team, and one of only a few females. So I went to her dance school and I filmed her dancing with her children there.
Oh, brilliant.
And I used her as one of my main sort of people in the film as well, and loved that. I made just some brilliant people. And they actually invited me back to go along to a selection. They asked me if I'd like to join the team myself on the back of that as well. So I've been invited along to a selection, to join the selection process, which is next month. However, I'm waiting on an operation on my knee, so I'm going to have to probably put that back, unfortunately. But that was
quite the experience.
Yeah. And I felt really, really pleased that they liked me enough to invite me back to become a team member potentially, which is really special. So
well, that sounds like a fantastic assignment that you were doing
it
as
was
part
great.
of your course.
Yeah.
You know, this is learning. And this is what you're getting to do.
And there was
it's
so
incredible.
much to film as well, because we were out on the Dales, so we're in a beautiful spot, and there was loads of people and there was loads of different things going on, and everyone was happy to talk to me. So I felt really lucky that they let me kind of get under their feet all day. It was great.
That's brilliant. That was absolutely fantastic. That's a good piece of coursework.
Yes.
That is a good piece of coursework.
Yeah,
is it coursework that it was
That
for?
was. I got a B for that as well, yeah. I was hoping for an A, but
There you go.
there you go.
Lots of footage to try and get in. It's
Yeah.
hard. I bet it's sometimes hard, though, trying to find that silver thread that runs through, like, the story.
Yeah. So I'd actually gone with the intent of doing a piece based on keeping safe on the hills, on the mountains, and actually came away with like a different angle, which was the recruitment side of it, completely by accident, really.
Yeah, and that's as you're going through the process, you start seeing other messages as being aware to being a good listener. I imagine is really part of that. I think going on, obviously there's a huge amount of similarity with time in the military. I think it's great, especially with the amount of rescue.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think your skills in the military have set you in good stead for taking on the course and this career change?
I'd like to think of myself as being very resilient. So being in the military, you do experience certain types of hardship in different ways.
Yep.
Being a mum is really hard as well. And then moving on as a mature student to study at an academic level that you haven't touched for a very, very long time, whilst, looking after your children, is very, very difficult. I'm not going to say it's easy, because it's not. So 2 full days a week in college doesn't sound like a lot, but the amount of homework, like the shorthand, is relentless. So you have to do shorthand every day, and it's very, very hard. So trying to keep on top of that when the kids want something, and you're feeding them every night, obviously, and taking them all over the place. So keeping on top of all of my coursework, the revision for the exams, keeping on top of shorthand. Now trying to do some work experience, as well as trying to be a mum and a wife and a friend and
everything else.
Doing my own thing. It's really hard. So I think probably time management has been difficult. And then revising for the exams in December was, it blew my mind, because I'd not done that since I was probably 16. So
I was going to say, so
really
obviously return to education, or education in this form. Obviously, you had loads of education over the years in the career that you've had. But how supportive has the college been in terms of you bringing you back as a mature student?
Yeah, so they definitely appreciate that I'm a mature student, and they encourage me. So Sue says, it's not easy, Adele. It is hard. We understand it's hard, and well done for doing what you've done so far, and you've passed with gold standards so far, and not everyone manages that first time. You're doing really well, keep at it. And just a little bit of encouragement. Sometimes they're fine if I do my lessons from home. So I've had days where, because my husband works abroad, sometimes the kids are sick and you have to stay at home, but they've been really accommodating to allow me to access the lessons from home. And they're always at the end of the email if I have any questions. And they're just really supportive, which has been fantastic,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's really good to hear. I suppose what are your ambitions? So obviously you're in the back half of the course now.
I think so. Yeah, a few months left.
Yeah, a few months left. You know what? Obviously, first ambition is pass the course.
First ambition is pass the course. Yes.
What would you like to think is next?
Yeah. So for me, I love creative writing. I'd like to go on and to be able to write some features on things as opposed to quick reporting stories. So I'd like to be able to go away and write reviews on things.
Any area particular?
Sporting things. I'd like to be able to take part in some sporting events and write a review from from doing the actual event. I also love theatre and shows. I've got some tickets booked for March. I'm going to write a review on something I'm off to see in Darlington. Kind of more lengthy, thoughtful types of writing, but also, which is probably completely different, but like the emergency response to certain things that have happened. Yep. I'm quite interested in that, but I don't know as much about that. That's next on my hit list, is to do some more research and find out how that all works and stuff as well.
Certainly sounds like you've got a good direction figured out.
I've got plenty of ideas. Yeah.
And do you think you'll be looking to go freelance, or are you looking to join an organisation, or are you open at the moment to what you do?
I'd prefer to be freelance. Yeah. And I've got because the kids are still obviously at home, I'd like the freedom to be able to call the shots of when I work, and, to work around the family is still really important. I think I hadn't considered quite how much the kids, that doesn't sound right. Like the kids still need me as much as they did 10 years ago, really, but just in a different way. Yeah. And I think I hadn't really appreciated that until I did come back to college, and I'm working as well. So although the kids get themselves to school and back, they need me just as much, but it's just evolved. So thought I don't really want to be working for an establishment whilst the kids still need me, because they're my priority. My husband works abroad, so...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nothing wrong with wanting some flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility is key with kids, I think.
I mean, they must be impressed with the fact that you've gone back to college to take on a course.
They are, actually. They do ask me if I've done my homework.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
Roles change, eh?
Yeah, they ask me if I've done my homework. They ask me, are you at work or college today? Don't forget you take the right pass. Have you had some tea because you've been sat there a long time doing homework? So they are looking after me, and I think they are watching me from the outside, and, well, if she's doing her homework, I should probably go and do mine. Yep. I don't know whether they think I'm mad for trying to do it because I'm so old. I'm not sure, and I do try and say to them, I used to be cool once, and now I'm just making you tea and doing some homework. But
show them a video of you jumping out of a plane.
Yeah, they've seen it, and they're like, that's great. Yeah,
becomes normal, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think that's
whatever
what
it is. It becomes normal.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, Mum was in the army, so what? Yeah.
Oh, well, that's splendid. I think, obviously what you've achieved in your career in multiple areas, has been absolutely incredible. And, doing learning now, coming back to learning a new skill, it's is an undertaking, but you sound like you've got it all sussed out. It's fantastic.
So long as it sounds like I've got it sussed out, that's fine.
It does. It really does. It sounds like you've got it all in hand. And I can just see that you're very driven in terms of putting your mind to something and getting after it. So, that's
definitely
well deserved. And I'm sure those results will be fantastic.
I hope so, yeah. Wait till June to find out. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time, Adele. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining, obviously, the Darlington College podcast. If you want to see any more about Adele or any other students for that matter, please make sure you check out the Darlington College website at darlington.ac.uk.